Chitty chitty bang bang. Hello, it's Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Shout out to the Guardians, my only teams, really Indians, by the way, my only team who actually cared to show up this week. So I will take them and roll with them. But anyway, this is four. This is number 4 of this series. And if I didn't say it, I'm Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. But we go past the controversy with Dave Wilson, the ABKC. Now everything's, in Spotsylvania, things are going what they're going. And this is important because this is part 4 to where things start to go bad. Of course, y'all know what he did to Holiday. Y'all know what he did to Cruz and everybody else that basically were his friends and tried to help him. Y'all know how he tried to come across as he created everything in the world and different things like that. But the time frame doesn't match up and the scenarios doesn't match up. We don't have to go over all of those, but he created American Bully, and somehow there were all these other American Bully families before him, or literally simultaneous. I digress. Narcissists do that type of stuff. But now we're to the point to where this is integral and we have to go into this heavy. The extreme class, which is coming under fire right now because he wanted to add extreme. And he wanted to, of course, at this new show, he wanted to bring in the Merle. He wanted to bring in the, micro. And this is a strange time, but I'm gonna focus on the the extreme. I'm sorry. 2014 was big, and it was around that time, like I say, that it was actually a little bit before that. But Bashar started working his way into the ABKC and started becoming, as y'all seen, this is not something that I have to make up a story about. And to all of you people who come on here saying, oh, you on this and you on that, the truth doesn't change, so my stories probably won't change. It's the other people like Dave Wilson that you keep on noticing everything he says changes from place to place and situation to situation. But in 2014, me and Dave were still talking, and we had some good conversations. And I did come to the conclusion at that time, I thought, shit, Dave wants to make a move. Dave wants to change this thing. So it was like, it was exciting, you know what I mean? And it was a play that I believe that he maybe felt it, but at the same time, his Bolingos was in somebody else's hand because he wanted to get rid of the extreme class. Now, I don't know. Maybe it was an ulterior motive because there was a lot of outside pressure where people were, busting his ass for having a class of dogs in the American Bully family that basically allowed everything, allowed high rears, allowed loose skin, allowed bad bites, allowed bad feet, and if you got a high rear, that's a bad top line, So it allowed everything bad, wrinkles, which we didn't promote wrinkles. It was allowing this. It basically allowed for every flaw, and this is the class that Dax champed out in. But this is also the class that, as y'all know now, Bashar calls himself the Extreme King. So this is the gateway into the Bashar era. On my radio show, which I did at the time with the great Bobby Deans, legendary bully, shit starter, and also true finder, because a lot of what Bobby Deans was pulling up, it was found to be factual. He would always back it up with facts. Well, let's say most of the time he would back it up with facts. And during this time, we did an interview where it was only my interview. I did the interview with Dave, and I asked Dave, I said flat out, Dave, what is the point of these extreme dogs? You know what I mean? And to my surprise, Dave was very honest. I don't know if it was a moment of clarity or whatever, but he said, well, the real American Bully is the real American Bully, the foundation of the breed and the thing that has made this breed happen. The extreme dogs have their place because they're bringing in money and they're bringing in worldwide popularity and helping spread the breed, which at that time sounded like a very clean answer, but it also made me wince on the other end of the phone because I'm like, Because to you, that sounds like a good political answer, but to me, it sounds like a gateway that money is going to override the ethics and the morals of the breed. And I was fearing that, but at the same time, I was like, okay. Well, it continued to be a problem, and then The solution per Dave, after, me and his conversations, we agreed that the breed should be limited to 14 inches. That was originally, I can't even lie to you. I can't tell you if it was Dave's idea or strictly my idea, but we agreed, we were eye to eye, like 14 inches. I guess maybe that was just the thing, and we agreed to make the 14 inches, 13 inches for a female. Anything under that was, at that time, I think it was considered to be a fault, not a DQ. I don't know what they're doing with it now, but we were worried about the dogs getting too short. We were worried about the dogs going into the area of the micro, which we can talk about that in a second. So the topic of the extreme came up. And how do we get rid of it? You know what I mean? How do we fix this extreme situation? Because it was obvious that the extremes were becoming bigger versions of the exotic. And this is where we started, me and Dave had a separation on ideology, because although we both believed that the extreme class had to go, I believe that it should be a re-entry program, so to speak, for the extreme class. And this is why I said this, and I told Dave this at the time. If we just said no more extreme class, but you have all of these extreme dogs, they're going to infiltrate their way back through the classes that they fit in as far as height goes. And at that time, I mean, flat out, Dave just told me that the ABKC couldn't survive if they cut away all the extreme dogs. Another thing that's starting to make me wince, because we're picking money again over ethics. Why would you put dogs in there that you're openly admitting, and you made a big old post, a big statement about why you were getting rid of the extreme class? It was for the best of the health and the best of the overall breed. And it was more political talk, because you didn't really get rid of it. You took away containment of it, which is even scarier, because now we went from a situation to where you could say, look, it'll be an extreme class, or maybe even what I suggested, an extreme breed, where they weren't allowed to breed these dogs into the American bullies, but the bullies could be bred into them, but you could contain them as you tried to fix it. Straighten up the standard and say, okay, these dogs are going to be a certain type of way, maybe more bulldog features, but we could contain that over there. He did the opposite, because he didn't want to lose the money. And I guess to his better decision, he thought at the time, he would just infiltrate it into the rest of the breeds. This is where we come into what we come into today. Whereas you have a lot of extreme dogs that have come into the other breeds. You have Miyagi blood, a ton of Dax blood, and other dogs that we really didn't agree with and we thought were hurting the breed at that time during these conversations. But now they're infiltrated through all of the standards, strangely enough, even including the XL. Now, this would also lead to a time where we started to see the emergence of muscle tone. And it wasn't just the emergence, but Mr. Beans was one thing. You know what I mean? Mr. Beans was, it was one thing. Magoo was definitely something else, because Magoo, I'm going to be honest with you, he wasn't perfect, but I liked Magoo. I thought Magoo was closer to being an American bully, even though he pushed the lines, than Mr. Beans ever could be. But we saw the emergence at this time of Mr. Beans. And this was what was feared, because we could accept Magoo. He would have been a dog. He's not perfect, but you can work with this. Mr. Beans, on the other hand, seeing him in person, you could see English Bulldog features. And the most alarming thing, the first time I seen him was a show right outside of Georgia. We were given the Legends Awards and different things like that. I was asked to judge. Great show. We had a lot of fun at the show. But looking at Mr. Beans, this started a lot of controversy. Because I am who I am. I stand on motherfucking business. If I see a dog that's screwed up, y'all know I'm going to speak on it. And I'm not the type of person who I care if you have feelings about this. If your mama got feelings about it, mother had you, motherfuck you. We're going to do what we got to do. And in this particular show, we saw Sweet and Low, who is a national champion, female, would definitely have to rank as a top 5 female of all time, get beat by a dog like Mr. Beans. Mr. Beans at this particular show, and this is rehashing for those that don't know, his handler was putting cooling capes and things on him in the ring, and he was stressed. I saw this multiple times. He was literally in the ring stacking up, and they were putting a refrigerated cape over him to try to keep him cool. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like nowhere in any dogs where you are allowed to take any cooling devices or anything in the ring. Furthermore, to put the cape over the dog like he's James Brown or something in the ring, and then the judge is waiting, the handler is waiting for the judge to say, okay, step up. Then you unclothe the dog and hope that he can make it long enough. And he was obviously struggling. That was one thing. I'm like, why isn't this dog being kicked out of the ring? But after I watched several high quality dogs, and I'm talking about high quality to my judging eye, which I believe is second to very few. You've never seen where I've judged and somebody questioned the dogs I pick. I go straight by confirmation and standard. I don't care whose dog it is. I'm going to pick the right dog because that's my name I'm putting on it. Anyway, they go around the ring. And somehow Mr. Beans wins this show. Over, like I said, Sweet and Low and several other dogs that is failing to cross my mind at this time. So I went home and I did what I'm doing now. I got in front of this thing and I told the truth. I said, this is the beginning of the end for the American bully breed. If we are allowing dogs who are physically under stress to be in the ring, and we are allowing their owners and everybody to try devices to cool them down, that's one thing. But if we are allowing these same dogs that is visibly sick to everybody in the building, that is under distress, the dog was having a hard time breathing, and then we give it an award, not only do we give it an award, we give it a points towards the championship. This is the beginning of the end for the breed. We continue to see this, as I brought up on a previous video at the 2016 Nationals, that we seen Mr. Beans going there, and this was the story that Bashar told, that somebody had poisoned his dogs, and this is why they were rubbing his dogs down in ice. But because he's a legendary dog man, his dogs were poisoned, and he had to show the dogs anyway to prove a point. Think about that. Your dogs are poisoned, but you're sitting here and you're going to show them anyway to prove a point instead of getting them medical help. I don't know why he thought that sounded good, but sometimes Bashar does that. He goes into Bashar world and it makes no sense but to anybody but him. But Dave went along with this also. So at that particular, I brought up Ron Ramos before, but at that particular Nationals, it's rumored that was one of the big issues, that they were making Ron pick dogs. And he, yes, I did jump from 2014 to 2016 because everything else in between is very, very much in line with what I'm saying. So at this Nationals, Ron Ramos decided that he was going to retire. The ABKC did a big old video about it, and we were wondering, like, damn, Ron is retiring out of nowhere. But keep in mind, at this particular show, Mr. Beans was in there, and that's the show where he had the pictures with the ice packs all over him, and he advanced through the Grand Champion class. And I don't know if that was what made Ron, feel like he did, but even Dave later, like, sort of, this was probably the very end of me and Dave's relationship, pretty much. But he said, like, it was weird. Dave flip-flops like that because first it was, Ron just needs to spend some time with his family. But once Ron had announced that he would be judging for the BRC like 2 weeks later, then Dave was all about slandering Ron. And then the stories start coming out that they were forcing him to pick certain dogs that he didn't agree with at the time, which sort of became strange because Ron started to go that route later. And maybe he was just going with the ever-changing thing. This is not about Ron. And I respect Ron on a lot of levels. I don't like the dogs he has now, but I do think that he was very much so an incredible judge, and incredible as far as the American Bully fabric goes, because he was one of the people who put in a lot of the show type shit that came along with it. So we started to see this breakdown about the extreme, but we also saw a breakdown in the dogs. Those years where you go from 2014 14 up to about 2017, it brought you some of the worst American bully champions that you would see. You would look in the ring and there were so many dogs with high rears, straight stifles, and it was a teardown. It was a super, super teardown of everything that was going on with the breed. And during this time, we seen things like Bashar bringing his dogs in the ring. Not just bringing his dogs in the ring, moving the handler out. That's a disqualification. We saw a bunch of debate about what was going on in the show ring and why weren't regular dogs winning? Why wasn't good dogs winning? Why is it all extreme, 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 extreme? At the same time, Dave is starting to promote Demon Boy as a razor's edge dog. Although Bashar later busted him and said, no, I own Demon Boy's breeding rights. Dave is basically the promoter of the dog, and his partner, they promote the dog, but I own breeding rights, because Bashar is arrogant and he's going to let you know. And so it became known to the whole public that this was like Bashar's thing now. It really wasn't Dave's. You know, he owned Dave's dog, even though Sean Jackson had produced the dog somehow. I told y'all about Dave. He'll put his name on anything. It was becoming a huge issue. And this is when we seen a total change in the breed, because the standard had continued to change during this time. Now, the dogs that were not extreme were considered to be insufficient. The dogs that weren't extreme were considered to be old school, as Dave called them, leather helmet bullies, and that was insufficient. While there's videos only 4 or 5 years later where he said those dogs were the complete and real American bully, and we were striving for health and testing and, you know, more drive in the dogs and yada, 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 yada. And the reason why this video is important is because you start to understand the progression of how it became the ABKC of Dave Wilson to the ABKC of Bashar / Dave Wilson. You started to notice the ethics change. You started to notice the thing where Khan was sent with Rocco over to Europe. Now, keep in mind, nobody from the States travels with their dogs to Europe to compete at their nationals. When you have the best nationals, well, the biggest nationals supposedly in the United States, why would you just pick up one day, I'm going to fly my dog all the way over here? It was set up. It was set up for Rocco to win the nationals over there. A lot of people in Europe were very, very pissed off about that. Keep in mind, Rocco does have a high rear and a kink tail. So you're already doing it again. You're allowing the breed to be sacrificed with dogs that have obvious flaws and issues so that you can promote something. It was well known that this was set up. It was well known that a lot of Mr. Bean shows was set up. At this point in time, you had a judge, Jay Machiavelli, who had got caught, and people totally exposed him to the fact that he was offering for show wins for money. There were several other judges that got caught show wins for money. There was actually somebody who got caught, you know, giving a little head in the parking lot for a show win. The ABKC was floundering, and the thing of it is that they never understood that the base of the ABKC was people who really liked pit bulls on steroids. The shows, and I will challenge y'all prove me wrong. The biggest show, the last big show we seen was the 2014 ABKC Nationals. That show had a very, very good attendance. That's the one where I explained to y'all that Cruz had the Elite Edge Dynasty and Dave had the Elite Edge, and there was so much drama going on. That was a pretty big show. You know, that's also when Dave had the bodyguard, Billy Blanks. Think about it. What dog man got to travel around with a bodyguard? If y'all don't believe anything else, believe me, you got to be a hell of a guy to travel around with a bodyguard, and you just a dog man. You know what I mean? Stop it. But with all this being said, you saw the transformation into the breed, and it dropped and killed numbers. They forever have totally misunderstood business, and we will say it in business terms. The reason why you don't see a million Ferrari car lots like you do Ford and Chevy is because it's a very, 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 very selective and minimal sale on the Ferrari. They make their money off of quality and a higher price than they do off of volume. A registry is not operated like that. A registry is operated off of volume. And what Dave did, because he saw the big numbers of Bashar saying that he sold Magoo for $500,000, which many reports is that it was $600,000, and Dave got $100,000 cut out of it. Those big numbers apply. I mean, you know, it appealed to a greedy dude like Dave. Dave always wanted to be something bigger than what he was. This is why He sold out all of his friends. You'll find very few people from the old Elite Edge that deal with the ABKC or Dave. They went to the Bashar model and they didn't understand. The Bashar model works for Bashar because he's one man. So if he sells 10 dogs in a whole year at a super high price, he's made his money and he's done well. But if you are a registry that does numbers and you need people to come out to your shows, this is a very bad practice because you literally kill the business. This is what leads us to the next video in our current times, is that everything that has happened has led to this point to where Dave is boxed in. The dogs that he used to hate the most, the micro, mini / exotic community. He saw the Kev Green at the BRC is getting action off those dogs. He saw all the other registries that deal with him getting action off those dogs. He saw a huge market where the American Bully breed has now been painted Merle. So now, although there is no evidence of any Merles being a part of this breed over the last 20 years, he gets to the mic and says, yeah, the Merle has always been a part. If it was a part of the breed, why was it a disqualification? Why are there no pictures of all these Merles back in 2000, 2001, 2002? If it's always been there, why isn't it that these dogs, like, nobody has records of them? It's because they weren't a part of the breed. They never were. They never showed. They never were prevalent at shows. They never were around. And now that we're seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of them produced, we know one thing for a fact. That's not coming from an American Bully. It's coming from a Catahoula or an Alapaha. But once again, the ABKC is deciding to pick money and a lie over the truth and the integrity of the breed. Just like they know that there's no real such thing as a micro or a mini without mixing certain dogs into it. And they want you to register these dogs, but they're saying they can't get points in the show ring. But you know what else they are not saying? They're not saying that they're limited in who they can be bred to. So although you know a lot of the micros and the minis are actually French bulldogs and pugs and other small dog mixes that allow them to have such small size, because you want that money, you will allow them into the registry and allow them to infiltrate. And once again, not learning the lesson from the extreme dog, when you infiltrated them into there, you're destroying the breed again. The thousands and thousands of people who used to pack the shows are not coming. The reason you're appealing to these people now is because the original American Bully people won't mess with you, because you destroyed the breed, you stabbed a lot of people in the back, and you destroyed everything that the breed stood for. So today, now you're appealing to the group of people that you used to talk bad about. You used to talk bad about the exotic community. Now you want them to come over and give it a different name. You used to talk bad about the Merles, Dave, but now you call them blotch. And you're appealing to them because you need people to come through the door. The reason y'all haven't seen a bunch of ABKC videos about how great the shows are is because even Nationals the last few years has been pretty empty shows. Everybody who goes there will tell you, you've never heard them say, oh, these shows is packed. The reason you don't see videos showing how big these events are is because they're very small and they're nothing like they used to be. And it's not because the community turned their back on the ABKC. It's because the ABKC turned their back on the community, just like they did over in England. And we'll talk about that on the next video. But it is amazing the situation you can be in just by being a dishonest piece of shit. Because now the situation is elevated to a government status. An individual who denied the whole entire American Bully breed of XLs to a national government. And this wasn't some little ass country. This is a big country. And then he refers to the prime minister in a weird type of way as Adolf Hitler, and compared the American Bully to the Jews who were persecuted by Adolf Hitler. Excuse me, Jewish people. I want to make sure that I'm respectful, because I'm trying to be. But it gets deep, and I'm gonna tell y'all, that lie in that situation and everything that goes on with there, which also includes Greedy Bashar and Dave's contracts with him and different things that have went on and drugs and investigations, y'all got to step up on this. And much respect, and I want to say that to Jewish people and anyone who could be offended by those comments. And if anything I said was offensive, I do apologize, but it wasn't my rhetoric. I was just talking about what Mr. Wilson had said. I'll catch y'all on the part 5. That one's serious. Until next time, peace.